Hello everybody, thank you for joining me on this video. I thought I would put together a video on the complete independent contractor guide for photographers. So basically this video is for photography business owners who want to know, what an independent contractor is, what you should do, how you should be paying them, what systems should we set up in place so that you have all of your ducks in a row, how to prepare your 1099s, who needs a 1099, and basically anything else that a photography business owner must know regarding independent contractors. And then if you stick around to the end, I will give you my basically how I would do it. If it was me, how I would do it, so you can be set up for success. So without further ado, the first slide I got is basically kind of going over what an independent contractor is. And so I thought the best way to do this is just to put in the IRS definition of independent contractors. And basically the IRS, they say that the general rule is that an individual is an independent contractor if the person for whom the services are performed has the right to control or direct only the result of the work and not what will be done and how it will be done. So basically, in other words, an independent contractor is somebody that you hire, but you don't really have any control over them. And so, for example, if you're hiring a second shooter, maybe your wedding, basically like, hey, can you help me with this wedding? And that's basically it. Then they would, they would be an independent contractor if that's kind of the engagement that you have. But otherwise, if you hire someone to always assist you with a wedding, like they always come for your weddings, and then you kind of tell them what to shoot, how to shoot, that most likely is an employee, because you have set the schedule for them, you've told them what to do, and basically they are working for you. And so that is generally the difference between an independent contractor and an employee. So questions you can ask yourself if you're still unsure is, do you treat the person like an employer or contractor? So that kind of goes back to this example. So again, an employee is if you have control over, basically by telling them what to do, how to do it, when to show up and things like that. Whereas a contractor, if you're just like, hey, can you come help me? Then they're most likely are a contractor. Or like if you hire an editor, if you like somebody's editing style and you don't really tell them what to do, you're just like, hey, can you edit these photos? That most likely is an independent contractor. But if you hire an editor and you tell them like, hey, you are going to edit all my photos on this schedule, this is how you're going to edit them, this is how I like it, and like if you provide the software for them, that most likely is an employee. So that's one question you ask yourself. The other one is like, does the person have a business? Are they a subcontractor for a bunch of photographers? They most likely are an independent contractor. And then the next one is, do you set their schedule? Basically, this is like, hey, we do weddings every weekend. If they work for you every weekend, that most likely is an employee. But if it's just somebody that you ask to help out when you need a second shooter on that rare occasion, or just here and there, that most likely is a contractor. And then the second one, or the last one, is, do you cover all of their expenses? So yeah, basically if you provide the camera, if you pay for their mileage reimbursement or other things that they probably incurred, that most likely is employee. But if this person is covering all their expenses, that most likely is that person most likely is an independent contractor. So this is not, so basically if they check some boxes and then check other boxes, that does not necessarily mean, like if you cover all their expenses, but they do everything else, like you don't tell them what to do and stuff like that, they probably still are an independent contractor. The big question is basically, do you treat them like an employee or a contractor? And if you treat them by an employee, by like, again, giving them like work hours, and if you provide equipment, and if you tell them what to do, and they answer to you, that is basically the difference between an independent contractor and an employee. So that's how we determine who's an independent contractor. And then this is what you should be doing before you hire an independent contractor, is you should be collecting a W-9 from them. And basically, this is the W-9. You can get it on the IRS website. I put right here. If you just search for, if you just go on Google and type in IRS W-9, you will get plenty of links on how to access this document. But this is the document that you need, and I've highlighted all the stuff that they need to fill out. Basically, they just need to fill out box 1, box 2, 3A, 5, 6, and 7, and then also part 1. So If they are a single individual, whereas they just have their name, they don't have an LLC or anything like that, they would just put their first and last name here in box 1. They would not do anything in box 2. And then they would check that they are an individual / sole proprietor, and then they would put their name and address, and then they would put their social security number here. And then I highlighted line number 7. Line number 7 is not required, so ignore line 7. You do not need that information. So that is what we do if they are an individual. If they are a business, basically they would fill out line number 1 with their business name. They don't need to put anything in line number 2 unless they operate under something else, such as a DBA or anything like that. So maybe their legal name is just, or maybe their LLC name is just something else, but they actually operate under something completely different. That's what we'll go here. So they would do that, and then they would still check the box. They could still be a sole proprietor. They could be an S corporation. They could be an LLC. They most likely are not a C corporation. So they would check one of those boxes, and then they'd probably put their business address down, which could also be their personal address. And again, we don't need line 7. And then instead of their social security number, they would enter their EIN, also known as the employer identification number right here. So that's how they would fill that out. And then I put in here, collect it securely. Do not let them email this to you. Do not email. I mean, you can email this document to somebody else and they can give it to you in other methods, but protect their information. Do not let them email this to you, because there will be personal identifying information on this, and email is not secure. So it's most likely better to do this in person. Either they give it to you or you have them fill it out in person. That way you have this information securely and their data is not being compromised. So and then I put down here, you just got to keep it on file. You don't need to send it to the IRS. You don't need to give it to anybody. This is just more for your records. And things like that. And then outside of this W-9, you should also have an agreement with them that outlines the scope of work and then the ownership of the work. This is the big one. If they take photos for you, you want to be the owner of those photos. So make sure that is in writing. All right, next up, now we'll just kind of go over how you should be paying your contractors. And so I always tell clients, do what is most convenient for you and your contractors. But if you have more than one contractor, I would advise to just pick one method and apply that for all of your contractors. Because if you're paying somebody via Venmo and you're paying another person via PayPal and you're paying another person via check, it is hard to keep track of everything and things can get missed. So it's best to have one method for simplicity. Less errors will be made that way. So that's what I recommend. And then have it all come out of your business bank account. You should be having a business bank account if you don't have one already. This is for 2 reasons. One, it's a lot easier to keep track of things. So, if you don't have a good record keeping system in place for all of your expenses, and you pull them all out of your business bank account, you'll be able to see who you paid when, and then you'll be able to get an annual total for when you do your taxes and remit your 1099s. So that's the first reason. The second reason is because if you ever get audited and you are paying people out of your personal account, it is a lot easier to prove expenses if they come out of your business account. Whereas with your personal account, the business expenses would be commingled with all of your personal expenses. So it is more audit proof that way as well. And then next up, have documentation for a compensation agreement. So basically, what are the terms of how you are paying this person? Just so you have documentation. Because if you ever get audited and if you paid a second photographer like $20,000, for example, you better have it documented of why they earned that $20,000, So have it documented. And then if they're a small business, it's even better to get an invoice and a receipt to show that you paid them, because the IRS, they do love receipts for proving expenses during an audits. And then last but not least, make sure the payment is traceable. So if you paid them in cash, you better make sure you get a receipt, in other words. Otherwise, you can't prove that you made that payment. But then again, if you're using services such as like a check or a Venmo, basically it's pretty much automatic to trace your payments is what I am trying to say. So Next up, we'll go over the record keeping and systems. And so these are just some tips on how to keep track. If you have a lot of vendors, if you have a lot of vendors, basically this is a great way to just keep track of everything so nothing is missed. Clients ask all the time, how do you pay less in taxes? And the non-sexy answer is keep track of all of your expenses, because if you miss an expense, you have basically just overpaid in taxes. So I would recommend to group all of your contractor payments together and also have it broken down by contractor. So by grouping all of your contractor payments, this is just good information for you to have, so you know what is your contractor expense for the year. You know for the following year when you are reviewing last year's financials, maybe you thought you paid too much to contractors. Maybe you thought there was more room to pay more contractors, so you have more free time to do other things. But and then also, if you are trying to find a certain individual that you paid amongst all your contractors, this would be a great way to look. You would know exactly where to go. So group all of your contractor payments together and then have it broken down by contractor. So yeah, you know exactly where to look and then how to find them. And then next one is reconcile every month. So this can be pretty simple if you have software or if you have a spreadsheet. Just make sure everything is captured, and this is very important to make sure that we did not miss a payment. Because we don't want to miss a payment. We want to make sure all of our payments are captured every month, so we pay less in taxes. And then also when we remit our 1099s, the 1099s will be correct, because believe me, your contractors will know exactly how much you paid them, and if their records don't match your records, that can create a problem for the both of you. So, and then for good systems, have a good record system, or a systematized naming system, basically. So have a folder where all your contractors are, your invoices and your receipts, and then come up with a way that everything gets named, where it goes, how it's broken down. This is just good, so in case you ever hire an admin assistant, they can take off or they can take that over and do all of that for you. And then it's just also good for organization, so you know exactly where everything goes. And then if you ever know that they moved, make sure you get their updated address, because you will have to send them a 1099. And if it's July and they tell you they moved, it's just easier to get that information now compared to in January when you're doing the 1099 and everybody's busy. And then rather than just ask for the address, you can either ask for an updated W-9 with their current information. So that's that. And then this is just some compliance checkpoints throughout the year, just to make sure you're being compliant throughout the year. Do a quarterly vendor review. This is just kind of like reconciling. So if you're reconciling every month, this should take you 2 seconds. Just make sure all of your payments have been captured, and then make sure that you have a W-9 on file for all of your vendors. And this is just important because when you go to prepare your W-9 or your 1099s, everything will be there. It will be a smooth process for you. It won't be a mess. You won't be looking all over the place for all the documents. It'd be great. Next one is watch your state rules for registration and filing thresholds. This is just basically staying in the loop on what requirements are for you, paying independent contractors. Easiest way to do this is if you are part of an organization. So every state has their own photography organization. A lot of times they will announce new rules that apply to you with the state. And you should just be one anyways, because maybe it's not regarding independent contractors, but it could be regarding sales tax filing. It's just a great way to stay in the know of what's happening in your state. If you are not in one of these states, you can just go on Google, type in your state, and then type in independent contractor news, or just type in licensing news, or if you just type in news with what you're trying to find, generally it'll take you to your state's government website. I am in Washington, for example, and so I would everything that we need to know is generally on the Secretary of State website. I could just type in Washington Secretary of State news, and then I'll get all of the new updates and things like that. And then also just confirm if they have insurance, if you require it, or if your state requires it. You might want them to have insurance, such as an errors and omission insurance. Last thing you want is for your contractor to mess up the wedding engagement, and you better hope that they have insurance to cover the damages that will happen. So yeah, just check if they have insurance, if you require it, or if not, see if your state requires it. And then once a quarter, you might want to see if the scope has changed. So this happens to everybody. It's called scope creep. Basically, if you're working with somebody, you tell them, hey, can you help me out? These are what I want you to do, either editing photos, taking photos, or whatever capacity you hired this person to be. 2 years from now, their role may have completely changed, and you may not have documented the scope change. So just make sure your engagement that you started with them is what matches the engagement that you signed with them. So there's that. So there's no disagreements down the road. All right, next up is what do we report on these 1099s? So this is a big one. You only need to basically report the payments that were $600 or more that was paid either via cash, check, Venmo, or Zelle. This is very important. Next thing that I would like to highlight is you do not need to remit a 1099 if all of this was paid via debit or credit card. So what this means is that you on that 1099, the IRS, they only care about what was paid via cash, check, Venmo, or Zelle, or other methods. Again, you don't need to do it if it's credit or debit card. And that is because if you pay them via a debit or credit card, the credit card company will issue your independent contractor via a 1099, or also through a 1099, specifically through a 1099K. So basically, if you hire an independent contractor and they send you an invoice once a month for the services they did for you, and you pay that online with the credit card, those payments do not need to be on the 1099. But if you pay them via credit card for their invoices, but then you paid them like $1,000 check for something else down the road, you would just send them a 1099 for that $1,000. So they only care about, again, the cash check, the Venmo, the Zelles, the PayPals, the stuff that does not go through a credit card. If they are a corporation, you do not need to send them a 1099 and only do payments that are for business. So if this was like a friend that you helped out and you gave them money as a gift for something else, just like a Christmas gift, you do not need to include a 1099. And then the deadline is January 31st following the year end. So right now it is October 2025. 2025 1099s are due January 31st, 2026. And then this is important because there are a lot of 1099 forms out there. Make sure you are using form 1099 NEC. So that's how that's everything that goes on the 1099s. And now, how do we file our 1099s? This is also one of the most important things to know. So if you are watching this video and you're still confused, you can do this with any IRS form. Read the form instructions. And so if I go to my internet browser, if you just type in like IRS 1099 instructions, you'll get multiple links from the IRS. If you click on this one, it'll be fine. It's very comprehensive. It has everything you need. Personally, I love the PDF versions. So if you look for PDF, although this one is for a 1099R, let's see what this one gives us. Yeah. Look for the print version PDF. It is much more pretty to look at, in my opinion. But this is basically a very comprehensive guide, 12 pages of what goes on a 1099, what's included, how to do anything. So if you're watching this video and you are still confused, just Google 1099 form instructions, look for the PDF version, and you will get everything you need. So going back to my PowerPoint, read the form instructions if you are still confused, and then all the information that goes on the 1099, it should come from their W-9, and then you just got to put down how much you paid them. If your contractor is a business owner, this is where they would use their business. So you just use their business name, their business address, and their EIN. But if they're not a business owner, you would use their personal name, their address, and their social security number. And then file electronically online through a 1099 e-file provider. I prefer Tax Bandits. They are super easy friendly. It's like the TurboTax of the 1099 world. They check everything to make sure it's done correctly, and then they can send it to your contractors for you. So it's very simple. You just go in there, you enter your business information, such as your EIN, your business name, your business address, and then you put your contractor's name, address, their EIN or social security number, how much, and then you pay like $5 per form, and then it'll do it all for you. So, and then some common mistakes and how to avoid them. Don't wait till the last minute, because you always are going to need something, most likely. So maybe you wait till the last minute and then you find out you don't have a W-9 on file for them, or you don't have their tax ID number, or you don't know how much you paid them. And so you text them and then they're late getting back to you. So yeah, just don't wait until last minute. And then maybe you didn't acquire a W-9 from the vendor. This is, again, if you don't have a W-9, it just makes things more complicated. It's so much easier to prepare your 1099, look at your W-9 form, and then just enter the information in. And then again, it's just proof of, it's just backup for if anybody, if the IRS comes knocking and they ask for a W-9 for that, you would have it on file. And a great way to get around this is require a W-9 before payment. So if you, you're working with somebody, require that W-9. That is the fastest way to get a W-9 because people want to get paid. If you've already paid everybody, they're probably not going to urgently get you that W-9. So require the W-9 before payment. The next mistake I see a lot is people can't remember how much you paid your vendors, and this comes from poor record keeping. So this is why it's very important to reconcile your accounts monthly, use a business bank account, and if you're using everything like via PayPal, it's a lot easier to just go in there, see where all your payments went, and then you can prepare your 1099s much more efficiently. Another mistake I see is people didn't remit 1099s. They don't think about this part of the business, and if you file 1099s late, the IRS is supposed to fine you. I will say though, it's 2025. I've been doing this for a long time, and I have not seen that late filing penalty hit anybody. So you are supposed to get hit with a penalty if you file late. But again, I have not seen it. But you don't want to be there when it does happen. All right, next one. This is the big one. You show the wrong amount on the 1099. And this is where it comes back to making sure it's important to reconcile monthly where everything is all nice and neat. Because believe me, if you entered a wrong amount on that 1099, your contractor will alert you. And that's going to be a headache for you. It's going to be a headache for them. It might strain the relationship. You might not know how to fix it. And so just make sure it's the correct amount, and just make sure it's only what was paid via cash, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, etc. Because again, if you pay them via debit or credit card, they are already going to get a 1099 with that information on it. So using the 1099 for the cash, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal accounts or transactions, that is how the IRS knows how much that contractor got paid, because every tax form that you receive also gets sent to the IRS. So anyways, yeah, that is the comprehensive guide on independent contractors for your photography business. So yeah, there's really not much else you need to know. If you watch this video, you should know everything that I tell clients. No stone was left unturned. And now the real gravy, like I said, if I was in your shoes, this is exactly what I would do for my independent contractors, just to make it easier for them, make it easier for me, and make sure everything was done correctly. So the first thing I would do is I would use software such as Gusto to pay contractors. And do this if you can afford it. I believe right now they charge $5 per payment. So if you just have one contractor and you pay them twice a month, that's about $10 you have to pay. It could add up over time. Again, this one, it just depends on everybody's situation. But with Gusto, and again, if I go to my Gusto account, which I have it pulled up over here. Yeah, this is Gusto. You just go to gusto.com. I think if we go to pricing, contractors, it is limited time offer, $0 per month, and then $6 per month per person. Okay, yeah, but basically, yeah, you just connect your business bank account. You can invite them. They can fill out that W-9 information before they even get paid, and then when you can pay them whenever you want, however often you like. It's very easy. You can just go in there, or you can set up auto payment, and then they will send out the 1099 for you. You don't got to worry about it. It's super simple. So that's the first thing that I would do. The second thing that I would do is, if I'm not using Gusto, is I would make sure I'm using accounting software such as QuickBooks Online to keep track of all my payments. So I definitely recommend software over spreadsheets, just because everything gets connected automatically and transactions download automatically, and then you can even create rules to do all this for you. So the more manual stuff gets, things will get missed. And again, if things get missed, it's going to create problems for you. You might be overpaying in taxes. And so yeah, just use software if you can. But you should also just be using software in general, just so you know the financial health of your business. But again, if you use like QuickBooks Online, you can automatically download those transactions from your bank, and then you can classify them like, hey, this was paid to Christina, $500, and then you can see all of your contractor payments for the year, know exactly how much you paid for contractors, and then you can break it down by contractor, and you can select for Christina, for example, and you can see how much Christina got paid. So yeah, those are the first things I would do. I would use Gusto. The second thing is I would use QuickBooks Online to keep track of payments. But if you're doing everything manually, I would require a W-9 before payment, because again, that is the fastest way to get a W-9. If you've already paid them, they are not going to be motivated to get you this payment. And then I would pay them via PayPal. This is just personal preference. For me personally, Venmo is more for personal use. PayPal to me is much more professional. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I would use PayPal. I like PayPal. It's a great way to do things on the computer. You can invite people. You can send requests. It's connected to your bank account. Easy way to keep track of things. I don't think Venmo is also great for keeping track of payments. So use PayPal. And then I would keep a list of all your payments on a spreadsheet and then group all the payments together, broken down by vendor. And if you're using PayPal, you can just download a report. It can do all that for you. Next thing I would do is I would enter all the information on an e-file provider before the end of the year, such as Tax Bandits. So like, again, we don't file the 1099s until January, but there is nothing stopping you from entering your contractor payments in like November or December. That way, when the time comes, it can be like January 5th, you can just go in there, say I paid Christina $1,000, her information's already there, you can send it off, and you will have a smooth filing season. So that's what I would do. If I was doing everything manually, I would use Gusto first. Then if not, I would use QuickBooks. And then for my software or e-filing software, I would enter everything in before, and then I would send it all out, and I would have a smooth filing season. So, all right. But again, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you have any questions on independent contractors, drop it in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. And then I will see you in the next video. All right. Thank you very much.